Aloha. I put together some images to give some kind of an outline of how we are manipulated into believing particular storylines that add up to our ideas of existence. Not just existence, but the laws of our universe, our psychological makeups, the way we interact, our culture, humanity, human nature, space, nature as a whole, everything that you can possibly imagine that is a part of your reality on the globe model. So basically, this is the theatrical alchemy of the separation program. So ultimately, all of these images that I'm getting ready to show you, and I'll breeze right through them because most of my other videos go into explaining this stuff into detail, and you're going to get the idea and expand it from each image on itself. Plus, most of the people who already watch these videos already see where I'm coming from. But this is just a few images that I put together specifically in relation to television shows, movies, cartoons, and how they are all interconnected into the science community, scientism, the university system, politics, the government, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, the prison mind, the slave mind control program, our health and well-being and lack thereof, the way we think about food, the way we think about our own biology as a whole. Everything is given to us by the television that is the left hand to the university system. So the separation program as a whole is a locking in mechanism of separation from ultimately the Most High, your soul, your spirit, your connections to anything that is beyond the physical reality. Anything and everything that is beyond the physical reality is, in a sense, criminal. It's against the law for you to even think about that space. This is why religion is placed out there to be the fall guy for spirituality or the soul, or even thinking outside of that box. Thinking outside of the box of religion, thinking outside of the box of the physical university system control grid. So they need some like the bullies, the scientism bullies, the Neil deGrasse Tysons, the Bill Nyes. They need somebody to beat up on. So they need to beat up on. They label them the creationists, and they lock them into these are the individuals, mostly plants from the religious communities, that are designed to make you think about certain things, certain perspectives a certain way. And then you have these meatheads like Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, who are the same mentality and frequency wise in selling you with ego, selling you with shutting you down. If you watch a Bill Maher show, which is just it's disease, and that's what this whole thing is. It's based upon dis-ease, keeping you in a low vibration, and so you can maintain a codependent reality, and you can remain codependent on the system as a whole instead of challenging the entire system and reconnecting with natural law. So you are bought into the maritime admiralty law system, which is a slave mind control program. And as long as you're caught up in the separation grid, caught up in the ideas of lack and disease, caught up in the separation as a whole, then you'll constantly be giving your power away, powerless, hopeless. You give it all away to the system. And some of the main concepts that I'm going to address in here, and I'll speak on them for a second because there's a lot of images, and I want to kind of get through this quick-ish without sacrificing too much of the information that I've been thinking about, but also because there's a lot of images. So basically, I strung together how the frequency of the television, now the social media, the mainstream media, the alternative news, the transhumanism program, the university system, all these things, how they are filtered through the screens that we have. So your computer screen and your TV screen that makes you think up how you are in your reality. So the globe model is the obvious one, one of the main ones in here. In everything that you see. So basically everything that I'm going to list off right now are the patterns that get repeated inside of every single program that you watch, every single thing that you listen to, in order to maintain that flicker rate, basically installing the television into your mind and shutting you out from your soul, which separates you from your spirit, your culture, your actual history, and actually your solar plexus willpower, your fire for actually challenging the system. You won't do that if you are locked into a fear mentality, a disease, a dis-ease program. So they can provide you the so-called medical care to get you better or make you feel better, or whatever it is. They have all the answers. So they are your savior. So the Jesus program for Christianity, Jesus is the Jesus program for Christianity, and the Jesus program for the masses, the collective as a whole, is capitalism, or the university system, or scientism, or the Big Bang, or the evolution theory. Whatever it is, it's all linked in together. Basically, it's the government and the university in cahoots to lock you into a power grid. And Hollywood is no different. It's the other hand. It's like a multi-faceted, diseased crystal that they install inside your brain to mess with the frequency, to overtake the frequency of your pineal gland and shrink your pineal gland. And then obviously they put the fluoride in the water and put the genetically modified foods in your system to do the same thing. And then sell you another agenda called the Transhumanism Agenda, and CERN and all these other university system sponsored ideas to make you believe that that's what your world is all about. So now they're starting to talk about quantum physics and all this other stuff, and astrophysics. That's their lead into consciousness as a whole, and your idea of the soul through consciousness, through the scientism definition of that, will be your consciousness is limited to your brain, and they can download your consciousness into a microchip, and that's who you are. That's not who you are, though. That's the limited version, the control grid, the extension of the control grid version of who you are and who they want you to believe that you are, so that you can worship them as your saviors for everlasting life inside of a terabyte, micro SD terabyte card that you can load up into a smartphone and carry around your disease, yeah, that was actually right, your deceased husband or deceased wife in a micro SD card, and stick your deceased loved one in I saw something on Instagram in like a vibrator or something like that, or something like, and it's this separation, these extensions of these separation programs are just, they have no end. They have no end at all. So basically the main themes that are going on here, and I'm going to miss some, or I'm missing some, but hopefully they'll come up later. Basically, all movies plant the evolution theory program. all the movies in some kind of way, they are mentioning dinosaurs, they are mentioning something in some kind of way in reference to the evolution program. The globe model is also part of that. The Big Bang Theory is part of that. Creation, cavemen, Christmas programming, the America program, space as a whole, the Final Frontier, Star Trek, military power. These are all themes in movies that you're going to see all the time, that you have seen all the time. Military power, which also puts the people in a hopeless, powerless, needing to be secured by the so-called powers that be, the all-powerful government. You have the second-class minorities. This is why you have the black man always getting killed first all the time, and so on and so forth. You always have slavery. You're always seeing good versus evil in some kind of way. The system in that program, the system is always good. So you got your superheroes. And what do your superheroes all look like? So this is part of the supremacy program, the extension of the race program, the sexism program, every program is intertwined in here. So you have a lot of cancer talk, a lot of AIDS talk, like all this stuff that gets put out there for you to be fearful of. So you have like Outbreak, the movie. Like I didn't put any of these movies in there, but also I'm remembering them now, so I'll mention them now. So you got like Outbreak. This is where all this Zika virus stuff makes it more real for you, because you've seen movies where this has happened. You have all these movies where these doctors are overseas helping people or doing all kinds of shit. It's the savior mentality. Basically, that's what it is. So you have chemotherapy. Also, this is the main thing that gets programmed, is the way you think about the medical program, which is actually the scientism university system program, is the limitations that they want you to believe in. So you can understand that you have alternative medicine in like cannabis and ayahuasca and other things, but you won't hear about any of that stuff. You'll consistently hear about chemotherapy in reference to cancer. In fact, people will die in movies because of chemotherapy or whatever, and they won't allow you to even challenge or question alternative. These actors in these movies won't even bring that stuff up because they want you to believe and think a certain way, to think like, oh well, that stuff is not even part of at all the storyline. Terrorism, obviously, you can see how the movie's amped up after 9/11. Even before that, it's all about this government programming, military movies all the time. Just as much as you have slavery movies, you have even more military movies where they're doing this to show their power, to build up their power, to make you feel smaller and protected by these systems. This is why you have all these horror movies, which are mainly, which I didn't put in here yet. The horror movies are mostly for your dreams, because just like a child, when you're in your dreams and you're faced with like a demon or a dragon or some kind of evil spirit in your dream space, you'll automatically wake up or run from that instead of challenging yourself in that dream space to expand within your subconscious and actually heal yourself and face those darker energies. So you have that's the other thing. It's to bring you down so they can bring you up, subconsciously and consciously. So the horror program is for your dreams, for your children's dreams. And the way you are affected by horror movies is the way it is being sent down through the ethers to your children. Your children are picking up how you respond and speak about and do all and react to the movie system as a whole. So their fear is a representation of your fear, your programming. And we are hit on every level. So you got the war. Another thing is the war is the only response, or blowing shit up. Like, I'll get into that in a second. It's all about like the government is your savior. So tradition is another thing. So that's why you see all these Christmas movies, religion, particularly Christianity. Everything is geared towards they talk about like this is the most diverse country in on the planet, on the Earth plane, but you can't even speak about another kind of religion or another kind of anything other than what's mainstream. And what's mainstream everywhere is you're getting ready to see this stuff. We're getting ready to go in the holiday season. You're going to see fucking Christmas lights all over the place. And if you see anything, this is going to be another thing. People are going to start talking about all this like, oh, well, you know what I mean. Marriage programming is a huge one because they need you to reproduce, to lock you in, not necessarily to get more people here, more slaves, although that is a part of it, but also to keep you in the program of providing. So now you become the savior for your children, and now you are locked in to the fiat currency maritime admiralty system because that's the only way you can get your basic human needs that you now have to provide for your child. So you can't live out in the woods. You can't do all whatever if you're as you were by yourself. Now you have a baby. Now you have the responsibilities, and the easiest way that what's best for your child is to basically lock into the grid. And you'll be pressured by your peers, and you'll be shunned by your peers. You'll be pressured by your peers to be a part of it, and you'll be shunned by your peers at the same time if you step outside of that or even talk about questioning it. And they'll even say, oh, that's child abuse by living in the woods or something like that. Like, so this is how deep this program goes. And the marriage programs and all these movies and all this other stuff is all part of it. Reproduction, marriage, huge part of these movies. Pixar numerology as a whole, but I'll use Pixar as a example in a second. But these movies are consciously triggering your reality, but they are also sending you subconscious and subliminal signals. And this numerology and the way you perceive numbers, the way you perceive vibrations, sounds, pictures, images, just like in Fight Club when he was like messing with the reel and he was flashing the picture of that dick in that kid movie or whatever, or that family movie. And then this is how these images are being flickerated in your subconscious space, and it's happening so fast. Your eyes actually pick up, and your first eye, which people call their third eye, actually picks up images that your eyes can't even really perceive. So we are being manipulated by these magicians in these movies, in your music videos, especially in your commercials. This is why you have commercials that are having like little skips commercials. And you have a commercial, and then you have like a part of the show, and then you have a 10-second commercial, and then back for it. This is an algorithm for your mind, for your attention, for your your conscious energy to lock you in even deeper. So all these theories of evolution, theory of relativity, gravity, the Big Bang, scientism as a whole, all these laws, all your saviors like Einstein and Copernicus and all these people are amplified, and then at the same time the people that you don't need to be paying attention to are demonized. So you see Tesla, you see Einstein's face all over the place, but how often do you see Tesla? Very seldom. Only recently now, because the social media scene has started to let everybody know that, hey, everything that you pretty much own that's electronic came from Tesla. And why don't they want you to know about that? Because that goes into free energy and so on and so forth. So that's another obvious thing about control in these movies. You see Einstein everywhere. You hear his relativity, or you hear the theories all over the place. Gravity, everything. He's constantly referenced because they want you to think about this stuff. So I'll get into this quick and I'll breeze through it because I've already talked enough. So Gravity, the movie, obviously, this is a clear-cut case of you need to believe in gravity. Obviously, the globe model here and the NASA programming, it's like a multi-layered magic spell in this movie in particular, because there's so much that's involved in these movies. You got NASA, scientism, the university system, the Big Bang theory, Everything is obvious, and it's called gravity, like that. So when they make things like this, you or the individuals who are on the fence about stuff, or even challenging so-called conspiracy theorists, or people who are stepping outside of the control or the separation program, they won't even think about it, because there's a movie that Sandra Bullock and George Clooney was in that was actually called Gravity, and they saw it. They actually went to the theater to see it. So when somebody says, well, gravity doesn't exist, it's actually density and pressure and all this other stuff, they're just going to automatically look at you crazy. Why? Because they love Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, and they love Ocean's 11 and Brad Pitt and all this other stuff. This is how this shit works. It goes that deep. Not only that, but people who ain't even seen the movie, they seen commercials over and over and over and over and over, and gravity in your face. So on and on and on. NASA, globe. So this is just an obvious one, but you can see the globe, all your local news, all your mainstream news, all of it has a globe somewhere on it. So yeah, gravity. You trust these people. Obviously, Armageddon, building up the university system, building up the government, building up this whole nuclear. That's another thing that I didn't mention in the rest of the movies, but there's nuclear programming too. That's also a fear program. It's also gets you locked into believing in your owners, believing in the previous military programs where like bombs were supposedly dropped that were nuclear and all this other stuff. This is to build you up, to make you believe in this. So subconsciously you're thinking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki when you're watching Armageddon, as they're talking about blowing up an asteroid that's supposed to come and blow up this supposedly globe planet that we live on, and they have the power. NASA has the power supposedly to put Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck on a fucking spaceship to go up there and go blow it up. Yeah, you're strong, NASA and the government, and you're super smart. It's ridiculous. Then they lock you in. Don't want to close my eyes, don't want to fall asleep. This is how this music, it's a fucking magic spell. It gets you. And I don't want to miss it. Like, you sing that song, you can't get that shit out of your head. 1993 or 1994, whenever this is. Aerosmith. You like Wayne's World. So you like Wayne's World, you hear Aerosmith in Wayne's World. I mean, it's so intertwined, it's ridiculous. So yeah, Armageddon, NASA, scientism, Big Bang, globe model, nuclear programming, Bruce Willis, Die Hard, Twin Towers stuff programming, Ben Affleck, Good Will Hunting, all this shit. It's all one fucking movie. Every movie is one movie. This is from from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Bogus Journey. I use this image to show like how the power grid, or the so-called, like in Star Wars, or the people in space or whatever, it's still mostly Caucasian people. Like all of them, everybody, all the bad people, everybody that's in power is either an alien or a Caucasian person. So you look at Star Trek and Star Wars, and even the evil people, the bad people. So it's basically power. It's building up the idea of power and control. So you're super duper hopeless because you are under the slave mind mentality today, and even in movies in the future, you can't even get out of the slave program, because even the people in your future will be in charge of you, or the bad guys will be in charge of you. And the more they lock in Star Trek into like the mainstream whatever today is now, when they were referencing like in 2160 or whatever, or 2110, or I can't remember the year it was, but they referenced a year, an actual year in the latest Star Trek movie, when the first Star Trek ship, whatever the hell it is, left so-called planet Earth. So there's these subtle cues that they get there and they're locking it in. This is actual time stealing. And each time you get closer to one of the time clocks, then they just project it further. So just like Back to the Future did with programming you from 1985 to 2015 to believe that you're going to have flying cars and drying jackets and all that shit. It sucks you out of your creative space and locks you into the codependent, hopeless program that the government's going to take care of you. Scientism and the university system's going to do everything. They're going to be in charge forever. And then once you get there, then you see the new Star Trek movie that tells you, oh, well, Star Trek is going to have a fleet coming out of the Earth, planet Earth, in, excuse me, in 21 something. What the hell is going on? 21 something. So this is how this stuff works. So yeah, the bad guys and all this stuff, and it's brought to you by comedy also. Here goes Bill and Ted, and there's I think that's supposed to be Benjamin Franklin, and then Einstein. That's mainly why I got this image right here, is to show you the Einstein programming. So in this scene, they're supposed to be in heaven. And they get up there, and all these people that are up there in heaven, obviously they're all Caucasians again. So here's another programming again. I'm just using this for an example. It's not like to make anybody feel bad or anything. This is what this program does, and I'll show you more examples in a second when I get there. But this image was for the Einstein programming and the government programming at the same time. Constitution and stuff. Ben Franklin, heaven. These are your angels, your saviors, your messiahs or whatever. Star Trek, obvious programming, globe model. That was came out in the 60s. They were doing all kinds of stuff. Everything, even your relations, your government and your cultural community relations that you have here, the way you interact with people, you reference it. If you're a Trekkie, you reference it based upon how people were interacting on the Starship Enterprise, or the crew on the Enterprise, or whatever it is, or that you get that camaraderie, that idea of camaraderie and all that stuff. You get the illusion of that connection and culture and connections through watching the show. So yeah, obviously NASA programming in here. So when you hear Colbert talking about Star Trek and having all the actors from the Star Trek movie on his show, he's mentioning like Zoe Saldana. She's on Guardians of the Galaxy and Avatar and Star Trek. So he locks in all the NASA programming when he has those university professors on there, and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these people who were locked into NASA and the university program. So that's how it makes it real for you. Basically, it makes it real. Death and destruction, obviously. One thing I did also forget in here while I'm looking at this was Planet of the Apes, because I was trying to remember that when I forgot it, but while I'm here I'll just mention it because this is Star Trek. But Planet of the Apes is another obvious one that I forgot to find images for. But there's your evolution programming, your university system programming, your fear mentality with the whole disease programming, the sicknesses and all that stuff, the viruses and all that, whatever gets planted out of there. And then obviously the monkey program, monkey mind evolution programming. Death and destruction, obviously, in every movie that you see. Apollo 13, this is another thing I wanted to reference in here, is that they get these heavy hitters. Every movie that they really want you to pay attention to, they'll give it like 1 million stars. They'll put their big heavy hitter actors at the moment in time, whoever is the most vibrant at that time. So Bruce Willis was big during Die Hard and Armageddon. I think that's when it started to go down, but Bruce Willis at that time frame. And they'll soap these people out to sell these programs to you. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was big. Started in like Conan time frame, Conan the Barbarian. Then he went into like Predator. Then he went into Terminator. then they could still sell some shit to you, so they put him in Kindergarten Cop and Jingle All the Way to get the kids locked into that program, so in the future they can make you vote for his ass, which he actually became governor of California. So this is all interrelated. It's all one storyline. But mainly what I wanted to show with this one in Apollo 13 is that they show you these people. They put these people in there, these heavy hitters. But also with this image, you realize with the fact that, the so-called fact, the illusory fact that we went to the moon, but it's a mainstream fact that we went to the moon. It's total bullshit. And you would think they would have all kinds of movies and all kinds of information out there, so they would want other kids to be astronauts and all that other stuff. You would have movies, cartoons, everything about it. Nope, you don't. You have one movie called Apollo 13 and maybe a few other that I can fit probably on one hand. Less than that from heavy hitters. Like you would think if they did Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Gary Sinise, and Ed Harris. Bill Paxton, he's like a B-rate and a borderline asshole. They put all these people in. You think they would make like a whole bunch of other movies if they could, but they can't, because for one, they'll reveal their cards. They'll reveal the whole thing, that everything is CGI and bullshit, and for two, that it's just bullshit overall. It's just overall. They'll reveal their hand and it's bullshit. So Star Wars, obviously. So with Star Wars, the latest one, they lock in the whole political scene with this whole Awakens in Star Wars and putting in a black guy in there as the main character, or one of the main characters in there, and it's all like, oh my goodness, a black person in Star Wars. Like, it's a big fucking deal. Like, even that is a program to make that, to put that news story out there. People, the social media has gone crazy because there's a black man in space. What? Get the fuck out of here with all this. So this whole Awakens, the Force Awakens and all that other stuff, it's it's channeling your actual awakening process, or your conscious expansion into the illusion of a movie scene. So you think that's what it's all about, and it actually slows down the organic process by installing a synthetic version of your consciousness. And then they use all these like subtle little cues, like that upside down crucifix with the bad guy, and that's the main image, the teaser trailer. So they have that teaser trailer for like months, damn near a year before the movie even comes out. So you're looking at an upside down crucifix and thinking, oh well, this is gonna have something to do with religion, this is gonna have something to do with politics and all this other stuff. You're creating this story yourself. You're making the movie in reality bigger than the actual movie. The movie is just there to give you an idea how to think and how to program your reality. That's what these movies are for, and they use these big heavy hitter movies to do that even more deeply. I gotta move fast because I know this is already kind of long. So The Purge, another thing like The Force Awakens, a Purge election year, and this whole racism programming and the whole Black Lives Matter and the whole gun programming and the flag stuff, all this stuff, it's not a coincidence. This stuff is put out there on purpose. They knew this stuff was going to happen. When the first Purge came out, however many years ago, they knew that this stuff was going to happen, and then they were going to release this at this time. These scripts are already written to be released on a very when they would be most effective for the dumbing down and manipulation of consciousness as a whole. So yeah, the double X's and all these. So this will go into giving some examples of some of these symbols that are used against you subconsciously, subliminally, that are all over the place, and you're actually when you're subjecting yourself to these symbols and this magic, you're not you're affected in some way all the time, and it's being played by the numbers. Like, they need to bombard your subconscious, so you start to unconsciously manifest your subconscious programs that you've been conditioned by subliminally through these messages, through these cartoons and these movies and all this stuff. You start to think a certain way, so you start to react a certain way emotionally on when some kind of image pops up, or you feel love for another image, or you feel the connection, or you feel, so whatever it is, it's energy. And these images are designed to make you think a certain way and act a certain way, and they're everywhere. You can't get away from it. So this is how your everything, your mainstream everything, ties into the movies and the university system and the occult and the government as a whole. And you can go into Hollywood and the Jewish people running Hollywood and the images and all that other stuff. You can go, all this is obviously connected. You can see it, it's everywhere. Everything that you own, there's Saturn programming. Saturn representing time. Time, Chronos, that's what Saturn is. Time stealers. These are mind manipulators. They steal your time and lock you in to slowing down, because your consciousness is actually creating the illusion of time through your experience individually and collectively. That's why time flies when you're having fun, time flies when you're in love, and time moves like a fucking snail when you're sitting in Home Depot or the office looking at the clock. It moves slow because you are not meant to be based upon a clock, based upon time. So these images lock you in like little second hands on a clock. They make you, every time you get flickerated with one of these images, it even goes down to, like, I saw a gas station the other day had two king size candy bars, Mars and Snickers, 2 for $3.33. So then you get 666, and then you get all these Mars and all this other stuff. This is all over the place. Just like you can see the gas prices go up and down, they sell these candy bars and put them in ads and all this other stuff. All these little ads that you get in the mail all the time. All that $1.99, $2.99, $9.99, all this stuff. It has a meaning. It has an energetic meaning. Just like these images, you can see in every image here, there's a Saturn program in some kind of way. You can see the rings. You can see the actual idea. The cube. The cube represents, that's what the cube represents. Saturn, that's the image for Saturn. And it's same thing with the Merkaba. Basically, it's the Earth symbol is the cube. So when you see the 5 elements, the tetrahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, and the octahedron, I think that's all of them. The Earth is the cube. So that's actual magic. That's the magic of this consciousness, this conscious reality. So when the individuals in the occult know, the alchemists know this magic, and then they can flip it and work it against the actual conscious beings that are working this reality, then they can own your ass. This is what this is. Install the fiat currency system and your ass is owned. Through the credit cards, through the money, through the fossil fuels. Even the idea of fossil fuels, that's another evolution program. Dinosaurs, fossil fuels. You don't think about that on a regular basis when you're filling up your car. Oil, gas. They tell you the oil came from the dinosaur bones and all that other shit. Like, what the fuck? This story is so ridiculous. Anyway. So here's the cube. another one. They put these images all over the place. You don't know what they mean, but they're everywhere. Apple Store, Australia, Denmark, New York, Mecca. All these religions, all the mainstream religions are in cahoots with each other to maintain control and power. It's all one crown over the masses. That's what I said. This is not about black and white. This is not about race and all that other shit. This is about the haves and the have-nots. And the people that have only have because we have to be being maintained in the have-nots category. And the more we have, the less the haves get to have. Yeah. So they need to keep us dumb, locked into this ridiculously limiting ass perspective reality on every level. Subconscious, spiritually, consciously, distracted on a regular basis. And that's what these movies are. Keep you locked into a version of reality where you can't go any further. You can't if you're locked into only being the king and queen of your kingdom, your house, your American dream, providing for your kids, then that's all your reality will be about until you die. And you will never ever get out of that frame of thought to challenge the entire system as a whole, which will actually make a better world for your kids. Why? Because you're too busy doing what you got to do to get by. And by that time you're done with that, and if you have any bit of curiosity, you're too old and damn tired or locked into your ego too much to do anything about it. And by that time, all your peers are either dead or making you think and act a certain way to where they tell you, oh, I'm getting too old for this shit. There's Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit. So they need you to be consumed by the physical reality. Look at Jennifer Lopez's ass in The Wedding Planner. Oh, she was in Selena. All her music videos. She was with Busta Rhymes. Oh, look at Nicki Minaj and Rihanna and Beyonce. Every year, there's a new something. A new set. A new ass to look at. A new set of breasts to look at. A new face. A new something. Whatever it is, the old ones fade out and the new ones get promoted. In movies, music videos, whatever. And they just gotta put them on these award shows, MTV, VH1 award shows, just like electing a so-called selecting a president. They give this shit out. This shit is all planned. All these television shows, what your life is based upon, you base it upon your time consumption. What you want to relax and feel good and laughter, that's a positive energy that exists in the ethers. If you're channeling that energy into and getting that energy from a particular outlet, then you are making that input, you're opening an input space for that outlet to stick inside of you and be who you are. So now you become addicted to and dependent on in your physical reality and your non-physical realities, because this is where these non-physical beings are working from. The in-between realms, the individuals, the entities that are stuck in between, who have separated themselves so far from spirit that they're not necessarily embodied physically. They need you to empty out in order to maintain that, to utilize your spaces, where like demon possession comes in. They need you to empty out, and also the collectively, individually and collectively, it affects us in every way. And so more of our fear is like love for them. So so like if we live off of love and connection, like children, like you can see that the heart of a child is actually the essence of human nature. If we live off of love and connection and compassion and empathy, then you can see that that's like our breath and our water. Then the opposite of that, the individuals who are stuck on the other side and in between here and the other side of that space, feed off of fear, disease, distraction, and everything else that vibrates on that space. And this is what the television does. It plays the in-between space to get the individuals who have not separated themselves from spirit to buy into the separation program in order to create a vessel for them to live temporarily through your experience, sucking, parasiting off of your system and your kids. This is why they need you to reproduce and do all this other shit and watch these television shows. So they put these television shows on at a particular time, and they use these actors to sell a particular idea. So they have this guy, Ed, I can't remember his name. Ed something. Him on Married with Children, so that's obvious marriage program. Family Ties, oh yeah, this is the perfect family. This is how they are. This is everything is. Then you got at that time you had the One Cosby Show. And then now you can see another obvious thing is with the Cosby thing, is that he represents like the father, like the black father of the people. So when you consistently, even to this day, they can't let it go. In fact, they won't let it go. Just today, I saw a Samantha Bee video where they're constantly beating down. It's like kicking a dead horse. Bill Cosby, they're constantly beating him down. Not to beat him down particularly, but this is to get the mentality of that community. This is why he's constantly referencing. It's just like kind of like off-putting when they reference it. Like, why are you still fucking referencing Cosby? You can't make any other jokes than a Cosby joke. What the fuck is wrong with you? This is why. Because they want you to be not thinking about the original Bill Cosby, and they want you to be thinking about and subconsciously being happy about your so-called saviors in the government and all that shit with this family ties mentality. So just like they have Modern Family, this is the program of or the Married with Children. Now this is the program of today. Married with Children was back in the day. Roseanne, another television show, make you think about how to raise your kids, how to be a part of a culture, the American dream, whatever. And at the same time, they install, just like this Caitlyn Jenner shit, they install the gay agenda in here, and they put it right in your face. So back in the Married with Children day, this father and this, he would have slammed the door on these two dudes if they came up to this dude at this time frame. But now, since they want you to believe and think a certain way in the normalization program, it's part of the system, part of the program, and you just believe it and then go along with it. And they sell it to you as, oh, things are changing. Like we are becoming more tolerant and more connected and whatever the fuck it is. It's actually a manipulation program to separate individuals from the divine feminine and the divine masculine, to dumb down your maximum potential, your fire, your willpower. Your natural essence is being bombarded by normalization programming. And what's normal is not natural in this upside down and backwards system. So you have Blackish and all the other so-called black TV shows and BET and how the Pawn Star show plays music that has like a rap beat to it. Like they want you to think and act a certain way. So this is how you get people to get dumbed down. You tell them how to act, how to think, how to raise their children, what to watch, what to wear, where to go, how to think, what is successful, what is a mother, what is a father, what are friends, what are kids, how do they act, on and on and on. Dumbing you down, stealing your time, stealing your history, installing ideas through movies like this, telling you this is what Egypt was, putting Caucasians in Africa, telling you that everything that was gold and maxed out in those civilizations, this is subconscious and conscious programming. They got the slaves as the Africans as the slaves. The gods and the kings are Caucasians. You guys already know this. I think I'm running out of time. Already gone kind of far. Gods of Egypt. God, same thing. This was from, can't remember what it was. What is that? Kingdom of Heaven? Or no. I don't know. Exodus. This was Exodus. And this is Gods of Egypt. So those are your gods of Egypt, which is Africa. All Caucasian. And this is what you see on the other side. Slave movies. Consistently. Totally upside down and backwards. Slave movies. Bombarded by slave movies. Timing. And this is the same movie, 12 Years a Slave. Who's your savior in this movie? Brad Pitt. Looking like Jesus. The picture of the blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus. Saves the day. Savior mentality. Savior programming. Television shows. Revamped. Slavery program. Consistent basis. All these television shows. History Channel, Discovery Channel, National Geographic, Netflix. All this Netflix and chill. Netflix and chill was invented to make you make a thing out of watching that through sexual programming, watching everything that's on Netflix, which is a fucking mind control program. That you actually mind control yourself now by thinking that you have the options. Since you have an abundance of options. No, you don't. You're just programming yourself with what's available. That's why they have the Cosmos on there with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is just selling the same space globe model monkey mind evolution programming that Carl Sagan was back in the day. And they use Carl Sagan's so-called essence to amp up, Neil deGrasse Tyson by the show. Meanwhile, you watching the History Channel and all these other movies that are on here to make you feel like shit. Revamped. 25 years later. In the 70s. They were programming you in the 70s to say right after the civil rights time frame, here's your history. Here's what your story's all about, people. Now that you have civil rights, now we're going to tell you where you came from. Slave, boy. This is what it's all about. Django, Lincoln, I don't even know what Case the Part is. Some other slave movie. Django, got Quentin Tarantino making it all bloody. Still a fucking slave movie. Leonardo DiCaprio. They put all these heavy hitters in here. These people don't give a fuck about you. They don't give one shit about you. Slave movie. Lincoln. Building up the system, the government. This is Rome. We're still underneath Rome right now. From Greek to Rome. From Greece to Rome. Still the slave program. So they put movies like Gladiator out there with Russell Crowe to tell you, oh yeah, well, you were even slaves back then, so there ain't no way you gonna beat the system or face the system at all. You just gonna end up being slaughtered. Even if you're the best gladiator in the whole world, you still gonna end up falling. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you're black, you just automatically a slave. And you need Russell Crowe to save your ass, or to give you your freedom. Another savior program. On top of that, on the mainstream, they sell you, they both take, like Martin Luther King, how they always talk about the I Have a Dream speech. They won't talk about the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech, which was actually the last speech right before he was shot. They tell you about the I Have a Dream because it's the power, it's like diving into the program, the dream. It's like the hope program in the system. The mountaintop speech is actually empowering yourself outside of the system. He's still talking about money and all that other stuff, but there's baby steps you got to go through. But that's the main thing overall, is they want you to focus on particular versions of reality. So they put Common in this movie, and the leading black actors, even Oprah was in this movie, to make you think that this is what the mainstream consciousness is all about. And what was this movie all about? Fucking voting. They give it all these stars and make you think that Martin Luther King was only about voting for within the system and all this other. This ain't nothing but an extension of the I Have a Dream speech, when he was really more about the I've been to the mountaintop speech. But you believe in it. People walk around singing that song. What was the damn song that was in there? It'll come to me in a second. It wasn't Freedom. Whatever. Anyway. JFK, same shit. They tell you the stories. They tell you, glory, that's what it was. Glory. When morning comes, John Legend in there. It'll be yours. You just go on and on and on. Like, they suck you in. They anchor this shit. It's like sticking a fucking anchor all the way inside your soul. Like, that glory is in that glory is in your soul. You think that's what's going on. You think that's what this shit is all about. It's a fucking illusion. JFK, same shit. Get fucking Kevin Costner's ass and Oliver Stone out there. Stat. Joe Pesci. Tommy Lee Jones, put him in a fucking movie and tell that JFK story right now. So they don't ask any fucking questions. Same shit. Vietnam, get Tom Hanks out there, soften everything up, make him a hero. Obviously, again, he's saving the day. And also, they tell you these stories about the perspectives they want you to think about. They tell you how to think. It's like, well, Vietnam and all the bullshit that happened, not even to mention the Gulf of Tonkin stuff that started it. But to think about these stories, they tell you how to think, and they soften it up. This is another, like, get on up. So what if you get on up? This is the James Brown story, another one that came out kind of recently. They tell, like, his story. In the movie, he's just beating the shit out of women, doing all kinds of drugs. Just barely, he made it, but barely making it mentality. It's like barely getting out of the system, barely making it within the system. Obviously, the name of the main name of the movie, Get On Up. That means your ass was down. Obviously, it's the same slave program. It's like a new slave program. One who made it. This is the best you can get. You ain't getting no fucking superhero. Oh, now they put him in the Black Panther. Now he's a superhero. It's the same thing. How many years later? Even then, we'll see how they tell that story. Same thing. This is the old, I think, what was this? Moses? 10 Commandments? Something. I can't remember what movie this was. Old school. It's supposed to be Egypt again. There you go again with these Caucasians. Jurassic Park, dinosaur programming. Shit, I don't know how long this is going. I hope this thing is still moving. Recording. Jurassic Park, dinosaur programming, evolution programming, scientism, constantly building up the science program. Land Before Time, gotta get you at the kids. Gotta get these kids. And they release An American Tale, Five Goes West, and all those other movies. They release these movies in tandem. So when they say from the creators of An American Tale, then your kids walk by this video cassette in Blockbusters or in Kmart or whatever, and they're like, hey, I want to get that. Can we get that? It's just like Five Goes West. They're like, okay, get it. Meanwhile, you're being fucking programmed. What's that say? It is the dawn of time, the land of the dinosaur, lost and alone. Littlefoot and his friends are about to embark on a journey of a lifetime. Yeah. You about to embark in some programming. Same thing. Good Dinosaur. Pixar. Same thing. I think this is on Netflix too. HBO. Walking with the Dinosaurs. dinosaur programming. This is for your kids. They get your kids young so they can believe in the system. Very young. And then that root is set so deep that they can't even, that they won't even question it at all. Same with the gravity thing and the evolution as a whole. You can't challenge evolution and gravity and the globe model at all because you still thinking like Littlefoot. You still thinking like Sarah and Petrie and what was her name? Oh, I can't remember her name. So yeah. So I don't even know what this movie is. Dinotopia. Kids, they just got to get your kids programmed. We're Back was another one. They made big-ish. I think they used the guy's voice from the Flintstones or something like that. The Flintstone movie or Cheers or what was it? Was it whatever movie they used his name? They used his voice. Goldman. I don't know. Some recognizable voices were in this movie. Just another dinosaur programming. Here's another movie came out with the lady from Ace Ventura. I don't know her name. Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Yeah. So Baby, Secret of the Lost Legend, it's supposed to be a dinosaur in the middle of Africa. They can never find it, but it's there. It's supposed to be like based on real events. That's how they make the shit real. Dinosaur, another dinosaur show. Dinosaurs. Baby, not the mama. All that shit. It's supposed to be a family of fucking dinosaurs. It's an obvious evolution program. Believe in this shit. It was E.T. Now going to E.T. and space and aliens and extraterrestrial programming. What does that image look like? Well, here first is the fucking moon.